everybody, and welcome back to TF2 How I Play. Today we're looking at the Engineer, as you can see in the background. We're going to be using 3 weapons, as always. The Engineer does have 4 weapons with the Construct PDA thing, but I don't think you can actually ever change that. I don't know. I haven't got a 9 to change it, either way. But the main point is we're using the 3 weapons. They are the Widowmaker, the Wrangler, and the Gunslinger, I believe, which is probably one of the most overpowered loadouts in the game, besides the lock and load and the Islander with any of the shields in the game for the Demo Man, because that is ridiculous. They're basically the perfect counter to everything. But other than that, the weapons we're using are the Widowmaker, basically. The Widowmaker is probably the best shotgun for the Engineer other than the Frontier Justice. Simply because the Widowmaker essentially has infinite ammo and you never need to reload. Because as long as you're hitting your target and as long as you're in enough range where the shotgun is effective, you have infinite ammo, never need to reload, and you're doing 30-60 damage sometimes. You can kill people insanely quickly. Yesterday when I was playing with one of my friends, I cleared a room of 3 people playing MG, didn't even use my sentry gun. I ran in there, killed a soldier, a spy, and a scout, all with the Widowmaker. It was pretty cool. The soldier was kind of dumb though, I was expecting him to kill me, but he didn't turn around. So it was pretty cool. But the main advantage of the Widowmaker is the fact that it has infinite ammo. Because of that, every bit of damage it does, it returns it as metal, and it shoots metal. So every 30, I think it's 30 metal for every shot, but as long as you're in enough range, you're getting probably more back, probably getting 34, 32, 36, around that sort of range. So it's essentially infinite ammo, and is doing a decent amount of damage as long as you can keep hitting your targets. It's an insanely good weapon. The next thing being the Wrangler is quite useful. I don't use it as much as I should, mainly because I'm kind of a bit of a noob playing NG, because I never really played it before I started using this combination of things. Before that I just sort of stayed away from Engineer because I found it boring sitting there building level 3 sentries and then them getting blown up, and then building level 3 sentry and it getting blown up again. So I'm kind of a noob playing Engineer, but I do really enjoy using this setup, especially with the Wrangler, which is an amazing, amazing weapon. Simply because you can control your sentry gun and you can hit targets way out of their normal range. You can take out snipers most of the time, and that shield makes them really effective against pretty much anybody, because I think it takes multiple Demo Man pills, even with the lock and load, to get through the thing when it's wrangled, which is really useful, especially when using a mini sentry with the Gunslinger. And that's the other thing, those mini sentries are insanely useful because you can just put them down anywhere pretty much and they're up and ready, they're doing damage. Even if it's only a little bit, that in combination with the Widowmaker, if you're near your sentry, is insane. Because even if you die, your mini sentry is probably going to kill the person. Like, with the exception of possibly pyros and lock and load demos. Because if a pyro gets close to your mini sentry before it can do its damage, the mini sentry is essentially useless to the pyro, because the pyro will just burn it and break it. So a bit of advice with it, probably put it somewhere that it's always going to be able to hit a target, but isn't going to be noticed quite as much. I like playing it as more of a sort of a trap, I guess. Put it like round a corner or in a little sort of slot that they won't necessarily expect it to be, and I do that a lot in the video, I believe. More recently, I've been changing it up and not using the Gunslinger, and trying out just the basic level 3 sentry, and that can be insanely useful as well. You essentially have to do the same thing, is put it in places where the enemy's not necessarily going to look for it to begin with, but it's in a position that it's going to do some damage. Like putting it in a barn on the side of the map where like occasionally a scout will go is kind of useless. So putting it somewhere where their entire team has to move through, such as on Badwater Basin, which is the map we're playing here. There's a lot of slots where a lot of spaces where you can put the mini sentry, or any sentry for that matter, and they're really effective because the entire team has to push through those places. There's the little slot halfway across the map, there's like a bridge section with a room and its health pack and ammo in there. That place is great for putting down sentries. If you can get them there quick enough and you can defend them, then that place is amazing because you can just stop the enemy team using that entire other passage and limit them down to the bottom one. And if you do that, then your team's going to have a much easier time dealing with the enemy. Which really helps with the mini sentry, because as soon as your mini sentry is blown up, you can place another one that's up and running. And if you're in that little box room up the top, you've got ammo there. So if you ever run out of ammo for whatever reason, you can get more and put down another sentry. It's pretty easy to sort of survive with this, simply because you can just put down the mini sentry, grab some ammo, come back and just sit next to it sometimes. You can also run around a lot with the Widowmaker, and then if you don't have a mini sentry down, you can place it down as you're running around, which is insanely useful. I like to be up in the front lines with this more than sitting in the back like you do with the level 3 sentries and the bigger things. I have noticed putting down teleporters and dispensers is insanely useful, and I probably should do that more. So if you're ever going to use this loadout or any loadout in MG, make sure you're actually helping your team, otherwise you're not very useful. People generally don't like that. So the most success I've had with this, this loadout specifically with the mini sentries, probably is on Badwater Basin. I'm not sure if it was this round that got recorded or it was another one, but just the positioning of them, putting them places where people don't expect them to be, putting down as many sentries in really awkward places where they have to actually go into the room to fight them. They can't just like shoot a rocket around a corner and be hitting it with splash damage. Putting them places where people don't expect them, make them insanely useful. Also, the Widowmaker just generally is an amazing shotgun, because if people don't expect you to come around them, you can hit them with multiple shots before they even realise what's going on. I've killed heavies before that are pushing the cart and things because they just don't expect you to be there. Actually, most of the time heavies don't expect you to be behind them at all, so with any class you can probably beat a heavy to death with a stick because they don't notice you're there for half the time. Best maps I found to use this on, specifically this loadout, Badwater Basin, obviously, as I played in the video. Two Fort to a certain extent, however, I think level 3 sentries have a more effectiveness on 2 Fort if you're defending the base. And if you're pushing up and you're trying to get into the intel, mini sentries can be quite useful, because you can go into the underpassage bit with the water in 2 Fort, and if you get to the enemy side, setting up a sentry down there near the health packs under the ground, that's quite useful because people don't expect a mini sentry to be there. So you can just sit in the corner, wait for the sentry to start shooting people, and then jump over and shoot them with the Widowmaker. That's something I do on 2 Fort quite often, is I'll sit around a corner and then jump sort of into the doorway and shoot somebody and then run away and then do the same thing repeatedly as NG. Because they don't necessarily expect you to be running at them and being aggressive, because NG is that class that sits there and doesn't do anything for half the game. But when you're using this loadout, it allows you to be rather aggressive, and you can do sort of semi-stupid things, because every shot you hit a target, you're getting more ammo. So it's not like you're wasting bullets, you can just keep shooting people and you're just gaining ammo, which is an insane bonus from the Widowmaker again. Alternatives to this, obviously you can completely drop the Gunslinger if you don't like mini sentries. Level 3 sentries are perfectly fine and perfectly useful. I've been using those, as I said, quite recently, and I've actually been quite enjoying them for once, which is strange because I never really enjoyed playing NG before. I don't know if it's just the Widowmaker or what, but I'm quite enjoying playing NG with the base level 3 sentries. Outside of that, for alternatives, I suppose you could also drop out the Widowmaker for the Frontier's Justice, which could be quite useful if you use that in combo with your sentry. Putting down mini sentries, because they have low health, they're going to get blown up and damaged quite a lot. So you could use that to your advantage, and if you clip a couple of guys with the shots from your Frontier's Justice, and then the mini sentry kills them, then you wait for your mini sentry to die, and then you've got crits, which is great. I haven't really used the Frontier Justice too much myself, so I'm not exactly an expert on the weapon. I'd still recommend the Widowmaker over it, simply because of its infinite ammo thing. Well, it does seem like quite a good weapon. There's also the, I don't know if it's Lone Ranger, or something else similar to that title. It allows you to pull your sentries to you. That could be quite useful, especially with the mini sentries. Because if you're dropping them down in the field and then you die and then you're running back, you can just pull it to you and drop it down at your feet. So you could use it to basically just speed up your mini sentry placement and movement around the map rather than having to keep picking it up and replacing it or destroying it and placing it again. You could just pull it to you and put it on the floor, which can be quite useful. Outside of that, the Wrangler could be changed out for a pistol, although I wouldn't recommend it personally, because the Wrangler is great buffing a sentry's health, and that increased range is insane, so I wouldn't recommend changing it out for a pistol, but obviously if it's just your personal preference, changing it out for a pistol is perfectly fine, especially if you're just running around and placing a mini sentry and then running off. The Wrangler is not necessarily as much of a benefit to you, so I could understand changing it for a pistol if you need extra ammo, like you're worried about running out of metal with your Widowmaker for whatever reason. Change it out to a pistol. I think, it's just pistols they have the secondary. So I would still recommend the Wrangler, but obviously pistols an alright alternative. And next week, guys, the video, well, it won't even be next week, it'll be a few weeks from now. As you probably figured out from the Demo Man to the NG video, there's a couple videos in between. Obviously, I think I'm not sure, it's probably a couple Fallout videos again, because that's the usual way of doing it here. Yeah, there'll be a couple Fallout videos and a Gamebugs monthly before the next one, and we'll be looking at Soldier and my sort of playstyle with that. I may roll the Soldier video into 2 rather than doing an alternative video for it, because as much as I like using the setup I intended to show in the How I Play Soldier video, I have another set of alternatives that I use now, which I kind of enjoy using, because I'm starting to learn how to rocket jump properly now, which is insanely useful, actually. Which I never really bothered to do before, because I always used to run around with the black box and didn't see the point in rocket jumping, because I could just shoot people and regen health. So yeah, I was fine with walking around really slowly and shooting people. I've noticed that the Soldier is actually incredibly slow in comparison to playing like Engineer and Spy. Sniper Spy. I've seen that before, actually. Spies just sit one end of the map and shoot you with a pistol. Great. But anyway, guys, thank you for watching. I hope this was somewhat informative to alternatives to playing NG, how I play NG, and sort of the maps to use on. As I did with the Demo Man 1, there will be more maps listed in the description that I probably haven't remembered in the video. Badwater Basin, obviously. 2 for I forgot the name of the other maps. There's 2 more maps that I recommended in the Demo Man video, where it's also quite useful. That can be used on Frontier, this mini sentry loadout, although I haven't had as much success with it on Frontier as I have on Badwater Basin. I think it's because Frontier is much more open, and a lot more spaces and stuff to deal with, which is great for playing Spy and other classes, but playing this version of NG I haven't had as much success using it. Simply because of my playstyle with NG is very sort of... It's kind of methodical in a way, that I move up in sections, and in general I'll start out in the front lines with everyone else and then slowly move further backwards. So Frontier's a bit of a weird one because there's so many angles people can shoot you from. It's more difficult to play the mini sentry NG because your mini sentry is rather weak unless you wrangle it, obviously. And if you're running off, you can't wrangle it. So Frontier I wouldn't recommend with this setup, although I have seen people use it on Frontier. But personally for me, I wouldn't recommend it. So thank you for watching once again while I babble on about Frontier being a bad map for this setup. Thank you for watching. Obviously next video will be Soldier. I hope you've enjoyed. There have been a lot more ums in this one that I've noticed. I think that's because with the Engineer I'm not as much sort of certain with things, like with the Demo Man, because I've played Demo Man a lot more than I've played Engineer. But, yeah. So, thank you for watching. I may do this again in the future, just to sort of go back over it and voice my opinions better than I have this time, or to show you guys a new setup, because that's the plan. Is I'll have new setups and I can keep showing you how I play and different ways you can play. Also, just like last time, if you have any any alternative setups you want to recommend to me, any ways you play, any maps that you find this setup to be useful on, or your own setup to be useful on that you're recommending, please do leave them in the description. Thank you for watching, once again, and goodbye.